What is good, everybody? It's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. On today's show, should the Bulls trade for AD? I don't even know why there's a conversation, but we're here to have it. Someone the Bulls should go after from the play-in tournament. Somebody that really has intrigued me based on the team he's on. And of course, individual awards for the team. All that and more today on Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Pat the Designer. Once again, going solo for the last time, hopefully in a little while. My boy Hayes should be back for tomorrow's episode where we're going to have some great conversation with the host of Locked On Bulls. On today's show, though, want to get into these topics, man, talking about a lot of different conversations that have been around the Bulls, just adding to this team and how they can make this team better, right? And I feel like, the conversations have come up. We heard it today. A lot of people talking about should the Bulls trade for AD. Of course, AD from Chicago. There's that hometown feel. There's that, hey, do you want to come back home and play for your hometown team that you grew up cheering for? But he's also a Packers fan, so that's a tough one for me. But first question, should the Bulls trade for AD? No. 110% no. Unless you find a way where the Lakers decide to eat the money and literally you're sending nothing, right? Like maybe we send them Kobe White in a second. That's not a realistic trade, by the way. You know what I'm saying? But like that level of trade, like, because for me, right, AD, when he's on the court, is an amazing basketball player. He's really good. He's more of a four. He's not really down in the paint. He's not somebody that's going to body you up, back you down, make a big move, and all of a sudden dunk it. He's kind of like a tall point guard. Like, he wants to handle the ball. He wants to get you in that little shimmy shake, turn around, pull up, J, fade away. He wants to pull it up in your face from the three-point line. He wants to do things with the ball in his hand while he's looking you in your eye, not with his back to the basket. And so for me, right, like, not to say AD doesn't have a post game, but for me, I'm not big on AD coming here, but it's not for any of those reasons. It's because you can't rely on him to be on the court. That's what it comes down to for me, right? I can name you a million things AD does well. I just named you a bunch of things that he really does well. The pull-up three, the J in your face, the back to the basket, turn around, fade away. He does those things really well. He's an amazing basketball player. But with all those abilities that he has, your best ability is availability. And AD has not had good availability on these teams. And so, like, that's the biggest problem. And it's not new. You know what I'm saying? It's not like these are new things. I get like the injury this year. Okay, rolled ankle, real bad rolled ankle, freak accident. I'm not expecting him to be like 90s basketball, like tape it up, put some cardboard on it. We're going to figure it out. I'm going to go out there. What's wrong with you? It's rolled. I'm fine. I'm not expecting that from him at all. I don't think that's realistic to expect that from these players today. When I keep hearing LeBron rolled his ankle and didn't play, but Kobe would have played. Like, LeBron's not Kobe. That's what that comes down to, right? And it's also a different era in time. But the biggest thing that I look at with going to get AD, even, right, like, you also kind of got to look at the fit here. Like, you've got your alphas right now in DeMar and in Zach. Not to say that DeMar isn't a player that, okay, maybe I want to see him play a little more second fiddle to Zach LaVine when things are all said and done. As he gets older, maybe I want to see him and P. Will come together as a combination. But you know that the Lakers are going to be asking for that. How does Anthony Davis fit into the dynamic of probably you're sending DeMar realistically if this trade does go through? They're trying to get DeMar out of you for making the mistake of not bringing him here in the first place. So they're going to entice the young guy they're going to entice you with the guy that's from Chicago, right? But you're trying to get Zach and AD to work together. Maybe you hold on to P. Will, maybe you don't. But it's just about, for me, how do the pieces fit together? And I'm all for, like, hey, let's put some talent together. But again, like I said, this ain't 2K. I've said this a million times. This is not 2K. I don't think that dynamic comes here and works. And now you're in a situation where you put so much on your plate that you have to rely on AD to be successful with. Guess what? If AD is not successful, now how does that work? When you pull that piece out of there, when you take that piece away, when you say, hey, I really thought that this was going to be something integral for us, and it's not, how does that then work for this team moving forward, right? How do they bounce back? Because you're sending essentially a good piece of your depth, probably. I mean, we're talking about what? We're probably talking about DeMar. We're probably talking about a pick or P. Will. I wouldn't give that up for him. And I wouldn't give up P. Will for a guy that isn't available. Listen, when you're on the court, you're amazing. But if you're not available to me, what use are you to me? You had one great playoff run. One. And really it was in the bubble and you won in the finals for him. Shout out to you. You won at the best time. But if we're being realistic, AD hasn't been the juggernaut in the playoffs that we'd hope he would be because he hasn't been healthy enough to be that juggernaut. It's not based on talent. It's not based on skill level. It's just based on, are you on the court? And AD's just not on the court enough for me. And the thing with me, like when we see these trades come, when we hear these trades come, it's the pie in the sky theory, right? I've got pie here. Like, it's really like AD's getting older, but he's going to be healthier. If I want to deal with guys that are questionable, that I'm questioning their health, I got that in the building already. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've got those guys. They play for my team already. And yeah, they may not be AD right now, and their upside may never reach AD, but at a minimum, I've got this guy for 50, 60 games when I can't count on having AD for 30 games. And so it's really tough, and it's really about having them in those crucial moments. We'll see how these playoffs go, man. We'll see what the Bulls do in the playoffs. But for me, like, a trade for AD just it doesn't. It's almost a lateral move, right? Like, you're sending back probably DeMar and or P. Will or something like that. Some kind, like I said. But like, does it make you better? Does it make you a better team? Even if he plays every single game, does it make you a better basketball team, or does it put you kind of on the same level but with different faces? And that's the question for me, man. That's my biggest question coming into it, man. I wouldn't bet on it, but you know what? I would say if you're a betting man and you want to figure out, is AD going to come, you need to go over to betonline.net. If you feel strongly about it, betonline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find your latest sports development, league news, and reviews, including this year's NBA playoffs and the start of the MLB season. We've got that underway, and we're doing some fire things over there, man. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, man. Let's get into this, because there's an interesting development for me with a player that is currently in the play-in tournament and is still winning, that I think could possibly prove to be fruitful for teams in the market for a big man. And that's the fact that Jonas Valanciunas is currently a member of the Pelicans. And right now he's cooking. He's having his second season of his best scoring totals, right? He's averaging about 17.8 points a game. His rebounds are down 1 rebound this season. He's down to 11 rebounds this year instead of the 12 he was averaging last year. And he just re-upped on a 2-year deal. But I feel like there's an opportunity for the Chicago Bulls to eye in on somebody like that. And here's the reason why. I've asked the question on this show, and on Locked On NBA last night, and I asked the question on the Windy City Breeze, kind of breaking down where do we think these pieces are going to fit with the emergence of CJ McCollum and him being on that team and him being what I think is going to be what I called great value Dame Lillard, which is like same product but a different store, right? Does that work together well with CJ, BI, Jonas Valanciunas, who right now is absolutely getting a bucket, and the return of Zion Williamson. There's not a lot of people that are looking at that, right, and saying like, yeah, that works well together. Because they both have to occupy so much space. Now, Valanciunas does have a little bit of a mid-range game. Zion does have a little bit of a mid-range game, right? But for me, right, CJ McCollum has made a couple of pieces that are on this team currently expendable. And I think that's where the Bulls could key in, right? I think Jonas Valanciunas did just re-up a deal. He signed for 2 years, $30 million, $15 million a year. But I think that's a very tradable contract. And I think they're going to need a piece that can occupy different spaces than Zion Williamson has to be in. And so Bulls fans, Bulls Nation, Locked On Nation, I ask you this question. Is there a possibility that the Pelicans choose Zion over Jonas Valanciunas and they need a shooter, a big man that has a little bit better of a jump shot? They need a big man that has a little bit better, maybe finesse around the rim, although I like his finesse, but also has the ability to, hey, listen, back to the basket, I can do it. I can also get up out of here and I can make these plays from the three-point line. I can also get up out of here and get to the center. Now, you might have to give up a little bit more, right? But for all of the trade Vooch people out there, and I feel like I'm sparking a rumor here, but it was, I watched him play last night and I watched him play a lot this season, and I just love his game. To me, if you could find a way to get back Valanciunas in a deal that included Vooch, I would be 110% willing to sign off on that. Now, Valanciunas, a very different kind of center, but he's 29 years old, a little bit younger than Vooch. He'll be 30 this year. He's making less than Vooch. He's 17 points, 11 rebounds, so still giving you that double-double. Gives you a little bit better defense. He's a solid defender under the paint. And he's really good at moving. And I think that's the one thing about him that really intrigues me, right? And when I say he's good at moving, he's good at, okay, listen, Zach and DeMar want to cut down. They want to attack the basket right now. I need to rotate around. Let me follow them down. Let me get underneath. Two-hand jam. We're going to finish this thing off. Or let me get a putback. Let me get a tip out. A lot of the things that Vooch does, but the thing about Vooch's game is Vooch is such a step outside and shoot it to get out of the way kind of player, which you do need in this NBA. Valanciunas isn't going to give you a ton of that, right? You're trading off one for the other. Valanciunas this season is shooting it 36% from the three-point line, 35% for his career. He doesn't attempt a ton of them. I think he attempted one last night. You know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those numbers. He's not a high three-point guy. But for me, as I'm watching this team go through the playoffs, like Valanciunas is such a key piece. When CJ McCollum is heading downhill, when BI is heading downhill, when they're attacking the bucket, and this is the reason it even came into my mind, watching this last night, and when they were attacking the bucket, you saw the Spurs kind of start to figure out, okay, we're going to close it off. We're not going to allow them to get in. And as they did that, it was just dime straight into the hands of Valanciunas. Valanciunas able to grab that mug, little pump fake, little two-hand jam a couple of times. You know what I'm saying? Coming through one hand, got the leg spread on one of them. But the ability for him to just cut down and run down, right? And I'm not saying that he's the best available on the market that's able to do that. I still have a lot of love for a Mitchell Robinson, but watching him last night with two dynamic guys, one that can shoot, is a mid-range assassin in BI, right? Well, I mean, both of them can shoot, but one that's a mid-range assassin in BI, a lot like your DeMar DeRozan, not as high of a clip, but a lot like your DeMar DeRozan, and then one who is a CJ McCollum, who can just about do anything, get to the basket, pull up from the three, pull up from the mid-range, who I would, in my mind, quantify as your Zach LaVine, right? Hopefully healthy. That's what Zach LaVine turns into anyway. And seeing the dynamic of him being able to work with them that way. I've always been a big fan of Valanciunas, but I feel like More so, right? Like I'm sure there's people like, why the heck would they trade him though? You're saying all these good things about him. I don't believe that the dynamic of him and Zion Williamson work together well because they have to occupy so much of the same space, and Zion's going to suck the air out of there. Zion, if healthy, is going to be a dominant force under that basket, and that's exactly where you want him. I don't want Zion Williamson pulling threes. I don't want Zion Williamson in the middle. The man shoots over 60% underneath the bucket. Guess where I want Zion Williamson? I want him underneath the bucket. He's also giving you a double underneath the bucket. Guess where I want Zion Williamson? Underneath the bucket, right? So like he's going to suck a lot of that space out of there that Valanciunas is currently allowed to occupy. And so for me, like, I feel like there's going to come a time where maybe even before the season, if Zion is willing to buy in New Orleans, right? Because we've heard those stories as well. But if Zion is willing to buy in New Orleans, I'm really excited about the opportunity of possibly seeing Valanciunas be a piece that might be on the move, right? It's the NBA. We see this all the time. Not even to say that somebody's disgruntled, but all of a sudden the trade deadline gets here and you're looking around and you're like, hey, hold on now. What's going on with that guy? What's happening with him? What's his game plan? Oh, they want out? I'd love to see you in Chicago. But even if Zion buys in New Orleans and all of a sudden, right, like, you got to come into the season and ask yourself, does that dynamic work? You got to come into the season and ask yourself, is that something you want to roll with? And you got to come into the season and say, do the pieces I currently have on this team maybe fit a little bit better with what Zion's skill set is? So there's a lot of questions around that, and I think Valanciunas could be somebody to watch out for. Mark my words, y'all. Mark my words. He could be somebody to watch out for coming into this month. And I'm gonna be real with you. We gonna keep the tape stays in rotation. I'm gonna tell y'all right now. If he becomes available, we beating the chest on this one. We beating the chest on this one. I'm feeling good about that one. You know what I'm saying? So hey, I want to know how you guys feel as well, though, man. Make sure you guys are liking the video. Make sure you guys are commenting down below on that, man. How do you guys feel about possibly a Jonas Valanciunas if he were to become available? Listen, if it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk, but I feel like this is one where you just look at kind of how the team is constructed, how the team's rolling, and the piece that they have coming back. Are they going to pick young Zion Williamson or 30-year-old Jonas Valanciunas, who is a double-double, but is 30 years old? For me, I would like to go with the piece that you know you can count on. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of like, that's the interesting part about it, right? That's the interesting part about it. Do you take? It's the same argument with AD. That's the wild part. It's the same argument with AD. Do you take the guaranteed nice? Hey, I like that. I like what you do. I like what you bring. You're not healthy. Like, you know, when AD is on the court, he's a bucket. I know when Zion Williamson is on the court, he's a bucket. He's unstoppable. Unless P. Will's guarding him. I've legitimately never seen anybody guard Zion as well as P. Will did. I have to give him credit on that. Or do you go with the proven commodity in that situation of Jonas Valanciunas, who's probably not going to give you much more than 18 and 11, but 18 and 11 ain't nothing to scoff at. You guys let me know in the comments below what you think they'll do and how you think he would possibly fit on the Bulls, man. And I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Bulls your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. So make sure that you guys check that out. Also, before we get to the final topic, man, where I'm giving the individual awards for the Chicago Bulls this season. Da, 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 da. Got to get them awards out, man. I want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that gives you the feature of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. You know what that means, right? Polarized lenses, well-constructed, durable frames, premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' Insane Protection Program. Shady Rays includes lost and or broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. Backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. Shout out to Shady Rays, man. They're doing some great things out here as well, man. Getting into the final topic for us here. Don't worry about the chair. Quiet. Shout out to all the people on the YouTube side, just like, why? When is he going to get the chair fixed? The piece is on the way. I want to give out the individual awards for this team. Because listen, while we've seen some ups and downs on this team, we have also seen some amazing performances. And so I want to give those performances flowers, right? I want to give those guys flowers when they're due. And breaking it down, right? I mean, I'm not going all the way deep into it. I think we know Rookie of the Year, Ayo Dosunmu. That was an easy one for the Bulls, right? Seeing as how Marco gave you nothing. Or just got no PT, whichever one you want to go with on that one. The Marco Army is strong, by the way. I didn't realize how strong the Marco Army is. Shout out to you guys, man. There's a lot of people. And I've got a video over on the Windy City Breeze talking about, like, do I feel like Marco Simonovic could be the Joker 2.0, just watching his game and how he plays? I really did feel that way. And maybe he still can. Maybe he just had to get used to the NBA game. But, dog, like, he I don't know who he pissed off, but he can't get no playing time on the floor. But Defensive Player of the Year for this team, who would you say it is? And for me, this is a tough one, not because like I can't identify who the best defender on the team is. I feel like we all kind of see at the end of the season is P. Will. But every defender on this team has had a stint of injury. So you almost could go Ayo Dosunmu off of the basis that he's been here and the most healthy, right? But I feel like that cheapens it. And I want to really give it to Caruso. When you talk about somebody who's been asked to do everything, Caruso for us has been asked to guard everybody from Trae Young to Giannis. I'm pretty sure we saw him on Embiid for a couple of runs, just throwing anything at him. For me, our Defensive Player of the Year this year is Caruso. And that also goes into the fact that when we lost him, you had no defense. You also lost like your defensive identity when you lost him. And it instantly returned for a little while when he came back, but then it quickly faded again. But he's also not 100% healthy down this final stretch. So for me, like, Caruso is a huge name. I think that's if it's me, dog, like, I have to go with Alex Caruso as our Defensive Player of the Year, just based on everything he's brought to this team. And it's a tough one, right? Because you could go Ayo Dosunmu again, not just because of that, but also because of the fact that, hey, listen, he was at one point the best coverage guy in the NBA when it was on man to man, right? One-on-one, Ayo Dosunmu was all over you like white on rice. But for me, Caruso, everything he gave and the IQ on the defense and playing the passing lanes and all of that, for me, that would be my go-to there. Most improved for the Bulls is a tough question as well. Most improved is tough for me because no one's left, right? Coby White did improve, but how much would you say, right? Like, I don't think anybody's coming here saying that Coby White's finally the answer. And even in the limited time we saw, I feel like you have to say it's Patrick Williams, right? In a completely different role, Patrick Williams. You know what, though? Hold on. I'm doing this live here. You know what? I'm going to change that because there's a player on this team that absolutely deserves his flowers. Could have put him in there for Defensive Player of the Year just because of what he did throughout the season, but I feel like he deserves it in this spot. The production you got from Javonte Green needs to not be overlooked this season. I understand he's on the bench. He's not getting the same amount of minutes. He's kind of falling out of the rotation, right? Not to say he's falling out, but he's not the guy that he was, right? We used him at the 4 all season. And he literally was guarding everybody. Javonte Green came in with the heart, hustle, and muscle. But I think that we can say he turned himself this season into a better player than we ever thought that he would be in year, 4 of his career? And he's still developing and getting better. Javonte last season between Boston and the Bulls maxed out at 4.2 points a game. This season he's averaging 7 points per game. He's shooting the ball 54% from the field. He's averaging 4 rebounds a game. And his defense was phenomenal all year. Would I like to see that jump shot look a little bit better? Yeah, I would. But even from the three-point line this season, shooting at 35%. The only time he shot it higher was last season with us, just for those few games he was here. That's all the way up from 27% and then 33% in his time in Boston. 33% as a whole in his time in Boston because he's split stints there. I got to give him credit on most improved, though. He really did a lot for us this season. He really did a lot, and you really could put him in the Defensive Player of the Year category. But, I mean, you have to – what he did for us, man, shout out to him. Shout out to Javonte, man. We appreciate everything you gave us this season, man. We hope that we keep getting more of that from you. We hope to continue to see you develop into that next level of player that you're going to be, brother. And finally, there's your MVP. I could have done 6th man of the year, but I'd have had to give it to Coby White. I'm not buying it because Io started too many games. 6th man of the year, DJJ, Derrick Jones Jr., Derrick Jones Jr. All right, yeah. Your MVP, right? I think it's a clear-cut choice. You break a Wilt record, you get the MVP. I don't think we've been happy with a lot of his decisions. I don't think I can't say that. A lot of his decisions at times when he gets a little too ISO heavy. But when he's knocking down his shot, he's one of the best scorers in the NBA. Not only was he able to secure season and career highs for himself, he was able to help lead this Chicago Bulls team, and don't scoff at it, to the 6th place in the Eastern Conference from being 11 to 46 wins to being a team that you felt could be competitive every single night, where we didn't feel that before, to becoming a team that is in the playoffs, to becoming a team that, based on what we saw in the beginning of the season, let's be real, Bulls fans, there's a lot of us that have hope that we can compete better in this playoffs than we thought. And that man is DeMar DeRozan. Shout out to you, DeMar. Appreciate everything that you did for us this season, man. Let's hope it continues here heading into the playoffs. Let's hope it continues here moving forward for us. But I mean, 27 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists this season on 50% shooting from the field. That is something to be celebrated. That is something to be commended. And we appreciate everything you brought to Bulls Nation, DeMar. And we hope that you're going to continue to bring it to Bulls Nation for a long time. Those are my individual awards that I went with. If you guys have some that I didn't mention, I know there's a bunch of awards out there, right? But if you guys have some that I didn't mention that you feel like would fit specific guys on this team, let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every single day. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. From the first jump ball of the play-in tournament to the last possession of the finals, Locked On experts take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. I was on there today breaking down what we saw from the play-in games last night. Had to think about the teams that were playing. A couple of blowouts, but still good content as well. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. You guys can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer, at PATTHEDESIGNER. Yes, I did go to public school, but my mama did teach me how to spell, and so did they. And also you can follow us at everything on Locked On Bulls. Make sure you guys are getting in tune with that over there as well. Hey, I appreciate you guys for tuning in for another episode of Locked On. JV with a dub, even if it's one half of us. Hayes, get better. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.